Hey everybody! With this project we're going to be creating a cityscape and we are going to use parallel lines to create our cityscape. So let's talk about what that means. Cityscape is a kind of a landscape and it's made up of buildings. So this is something you would see maybe in a downtown type of area in a city. So we're going to be drawing lots of buildings and we are going to use parallel lines to create our buildings. Parallel lines are lines that if you extended them out forever they would never touch each other. So we are going to be using lines to create our cityscape. The supplies you'll need for this project are a white piece of paper, a pencil to draw with, a ruler or a straight edge, and something to color with like markers or colored pencils or crayons. Gather your supplies, we'll be ready to get started. Okay, I've gathered my supplies. I've got a pencil to draw with, a ruler to help me draw straight lines, and then I'm going to use markers, Sharpies to color my lines. You can use crayons, colored pencils, whatever kind of supplies you have, or if you don't have anything to color with, you can just do this with pencil. That's okay. So we're going to start on our white piece of paper, and what we're going to do is we are going to draw straight lines, vertical lines with our ruler. So I'm going to use my ruler, make sure my ruler is nice and straight up and down, and I'm going to draw a vertical line like that. Now I'm going to continue this across the paper, but I don't want my spaces to all be exactly the same. I want to make some closer together, some a little bit further apart, because these are going to be buildings, and not every building, when you look at a cityscape, is exactly the same width. So I'm going to continue this all the way across. Okay. Now we're working with parallel lines. What parallel lines are lines that when you draw them, if you were to extend them, two lines next to each other, you draw two lines next to each other and you extend them out forever, they would never touch. So these lines are all parallel lines. We're also going to use parallel lines to create the windows or designs on our buildings. So what we're going to do, each one of these is going to be a building, each one of these spaces here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the top of the building. So we're going to be using straight lines only. We're not going to use curved lines on this project, but our lines can be diagonal or they can be straight across. Either one will work. So I'm going to start off first with a diagonal line. So I drew a diagonal line. You can draw the same line I am, or you can do your own line. Once we do a few, you'll probably start to understand a little bit more. Now, my next line needs to match up with here. I don't want to draw it like here or here. It's going to match up to this one, and it can either be straight across or it can be diagonal, and I'm going to make mine diagonal going this way. My next building, again, I'm going to match up with where I left off. I'm going to make this one a straight across. Okay, and then this one's going to be diagonal. I'm going to make this one go up a little bit more. So you can change the type of diagonal line you do. It can be a lot steeper, or it can be not quite as steep like these. I'm going to do a straight across line on this one. Okay, so I have drawn the tops of each of my buildings, and what I'm going to do now is in each building I'm going to draw a parallel line to the top of the building all the way down. I'm going to keep drawing parallel lines, and that line is going to match how I do that here. So watch what I do. Now notice, if I were to keep extending these lines, they would never touch each other. They're parallel. So I'm going to continue this all the way down the bottom of this building. Okay, and that last one got a little bit off. I can fix that, or I can leave it as it is. So when I do my next row, I want to follow the same line here, and I'm going to match up where I drew, just like I did at the top of the building. Now I'm going to continue this all the way across until I get to my last building. Okay, so I've got all my lines drawn. Now right now they don't look like separate buildings. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a black Sharpie and I'm going to go over my vertical lines. Now notice I'm only starting at the buildings. I didn't start all the way up here. I'm going to show you why in a little bit. I'm also going to do the top line. Forgot that. Okay, so now I've done the outlining of the buildings. Each building I'm going to choose a different color. And remember, you can use whatever supplies you have. If you've got crayons, if you've got regular markers or color pencils, that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a color and I'm going to trace each of those lines with that color just inside this one building to start. And if there's anywhere you get off of your lines, you can erase those a little bit. It's okay. Now I'm going to choose a different color for the next building. Now if you want to, you can also go in on some of your buildings. You don't have to do this on all of them. And maybe add some different kinds of lines for either the windows or bricks or something like that on your building. So you could do that as well. Now, you probably don't want to do this on every building, but you might add some of those details on some of them. So I'm going to choose a different color for each of my buildings and continue until I'm all the way across. Okay, now you have a couple options. At this point, you could just color the sky and you could make it color with blue or with black. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a black piece of paper and I'm going to cut mine out and I'm going to glue it on here and make that the night sky. Now, if you don't have black paper, that's fine. Just color in your sky. You can erase your lines or you can just color right over them, whatever works best for you. So I'm going to cut out my cityscape and glue it onto this black piece of paper. Okay, so I've cut that out. Now I'm going to glue it on. Okay, so now that I've got it glued on, I'm going to take a white, you could use crayon, colored pencil, whatever you have if you're doing the this step. And I'm going to draw and color a moon and some stars for my night sky. And now I'm finished with my parallel lines cityscape. I hope you had a lot of fun creating this artwork and I can't wait to see everybody's creations. Bye.